for more on the impact of this trial on the stock. Let's bring in Dan Ives, Managing Director of Equity Research at Wedbush. I was looking, actually, before we were going to talk to you, just because I saw someone, was it Morgan Stanley? $500 price target. Stocks have bounced back from under 200 back to 330 or so. Unless it's a positive effect on the stock, there's no effect from this.
Look, but I think it's another black eye from Musk. And
look at the stock. How can you tell from that stock that it's another black eye?
Well, it's a black eye in terms of not necessarily in terms of the impact of the stock, but in terms of someone that needs to balance a Giga 3 build out in China, Model 3 demand that we think is going to wane in the U.S. And I think you've had, obviously, a meteoric rebound from what we saw in terms of the lows, but I continue to think caution going into 2020 in terms of what we've seen in terms of demand in U.S. and can profitability be sustained. So we'd be selling into this rally.
I mean, do you think with Elon that he is just Teflon? He can do anything he wants with impunity until he can't, I guess. But at this point, I would say he's so charismatic and so successful. I mean, that whether you have a Tesla or not, I mean, you've got to grant him that. I don't know what happens with subsidies and, when BMW starts making these cars, but he has a lot of leeway just because of who he is.
Well, no doubt. And as someone,
you can do this with impunity.
Well, and I think that's part of the issue, is that he continues to be held to a different standard. Yeah. And right now, obviously, it's a positive sort of little wave that we're seeing in Tesla. But as we go into next year in terms of Giga 3, China, U.S. demand, profitability. If there's any slip up, I think that's where this gets more magnified from a board perspective in terms of, because it all comes down to, institutionally speaking, it's hard to own this name and size with him as CEO. And I continue to think if he was not CEO, it's a stock that would be significantly higher.
Really?
I mean, wow. I feel like so much of the success is him.
I don't
think their biggest
so.
But he is by far their biggest
He'd be part of the management team, a big part of the management team. Obviously,
as the guy who owns most of the stock, he's never going to be anything other than the boss there, no matter what title you give him.
Well, that's why I think right now that continues to be the conundrum with Tesla.
And you think that net, he's more of a detriment to the company than an asset at this
He's
point?
more of an asset as an overall company in terms of the operation.
But to the stock price, it'd be better without him?
To the stock. Right now, if you told me Musk is not CEO and obviously chairman like Robin takes over, or some sort of co-CEO position.
You're just talking about shuffling the deck chairs. I mean, that's just a change in title. He's still there. I don't see how Tesla gets by without having Elon Musk there, honestly.
He continues to be a key asset, of course, to the company. He's the hearts and lungs. But as you see with the trial and some of these other issues, these are distractions that take away from the core situation at Tesla in terms of all the moving parts.
You got to take the bad with the good with him.
Yeah. But what about just generally core demand we know, as Joe pointed out, demand for electric vehicles is increasing dramatically globally. But how is Tesla positioned for that in 2020? Because, frankly, I had been short the stock. I covered, and I've been afraid to do anything else since it's just blown up. No, blown up right, in my face. But I'd like to put the short back on, but I'm afraid that the economy's still strong enough that there's enough people that'll put down deposits for new vehicles.
Yeah, and I think many are in your camp, and I think it all comes down to, if you see Europe demand, there's been pent-up demand, we've seen it strong. Seeing what's happening in China, it comes down to U.S. I think U.S. demand's waning going into next year. And if you look at what they need to hit profitability, 450, 500,000 units, I think we get to a point in next year where this becomes another opportunity where you can see the stock move down. Right now, it's a massive short covering, but I believe this will be short-lived, continue to have more of a negative view on Tesla in terms as we go into next year.